Everybody, hope you are doing well. Let's get started today. I was having a conversation yesterday, and we were talking about the struggles of man. Why we struggle with doing what God called us to do. And we were in the book in our conversation. We were talking about in Genesis, and I'm gonna read it to you here, Moses. We're gonna jump through a few um, passages of scripture, but I wanted to start here because I think this is where our basis starts on where we're going with that. And so let's read, let's go to Genesis, and we're going to be, I think I'm going to start around 24. How about that? And Genesis 1 and 24, and I'm in the NLT right now. 24. Then God said, let the earth produce every sort of animal, each producing offspring of the same kind, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, and wild animals. And that is what happened. God made all sorts of wild animals, livestock, and small animals, each able to produce offspring of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. 26. Then God said, let us make human beings. Let us make human beings in our own image to be like us. They will reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock, all the wild animals on the earth, and the small animals that scurry along the ground. So pretty much human beings were going to manage, subdue, control, govern over everything that it previously said in the 25. Let's go to 27. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and govern it. Govern it. Fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and all the animals that scurry along the ground. I'm going to stop right there. I think the main part that I want you to see in what I just read, you see where God is giving us dominion. He's given us dominion over the things that he created. He prepared the land for us. He had prepared the landscape. He set everything for us and placed us in this place to govern it for him. But we're governing everything that he's already created. He gave us reign and rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and all the animals that scurry along the ground. He told us to be fruitful and multiply and govern over it. Fill the earth and govern it. Have dominion. I want to talk about dominion. And, whether you use the word dominion, subdue over it, we're pretty much talking about having control over what he's giving us to manage. In our discussion yesterday, we were talking about the struggles of life. And I made the comment to one of my nephews that I don't struggle in my marriage anymore. And he looked at me. I was like, I don't. No, I used to. And he said, what's the difference? Well, I said, the difference is that I've learned and we've learned to not fight each other. And as simple as that sounds, it's a struggle because the prides of life and everything that goes along with the trick of the enemy causes us to have friction. In other words, I've learned to have dominion over myself. My wife learned to have dominion over herself, that we could stop fighting each other. And that just took us into a offshoot of discussion, because as it relates to what we were saying was that pretty much our issues begin with us not having dominion over ourselves. He tells us to have dominion and subdue so we can manage what he's given us. but we don't apply that to ourselves. How can we manage, have dominion, and subdue everything that he's given us and everything that's a part of his life if we don't first have dominion over ourselves? And that's the question today. Are you practicing dominion over the things that you struggle with in your own life? I'm not talking about somebody else. I'm not talking about your children. I'm not talking about your job. I'm not talking about any of those things that we naturally are governing over. I'm saying, are you managing yourself appropriately? Because if you can't manage yourself appropriately, you're going to struggle with everything else. You name it, you're going to struggle with it. Because if you have to have self-control before you control something else. Because if you can't control yourself, those things that you're going to try to control are going to slip out of your fingers. They're not going to be managed properly. Give me some examples. We talked about how I said, I don't struggle in my marriage no more. Now hear me, guys. I'm not saying that we don't have courageous conversations. I'm not saying we don't have any. That's not what I'm saying. But where we used to dwell and it blow up and it becomes bigger than what it needs to be, that we don't do anymore. You learn to pick your battles. I made the comment to my nephew yesterday. The thing, if I can laugh about the thing now, I could have laughed about it then. The problems that me and my wife can talk about now with a calm head or even laugh about now, we could have back then. The difference is my perspective on it, or our perspective on the situation. What we targeted as the enemy. See, then we were targeting each other as the enemy. And each other wasn't the enemy. The enemy was within ourselves. See, the difference in us now and the difference in us then is not the situation, because the situation is still exactly the same. And some of those situations that we argued about then are still issues now. It's our perspective on it. It's what changed. And our perspective is a direct reflection of the dominion that we put on ourselves. See, it's not a problem unless I declare it's a problem. And most of the time when I declare something's a problem, or there's an issue, is most of the time the pride of life and my arrogance and my way of thinking and the way I see it was the problem. Hear me? See, now once you get all that under control within here, and you unconfuse all the situation, you take all of the things that what you feel about it out of the way, and you line it up with God's word, it seems to not be a problem anymore. Hear me, guys. See, you've heard me say before, and I reviewed a video that I did back in June, and I titled that video, Get Out of There. You might want to go back and pull that video out and watch it. I watched it today myself, and I still got revelation from what I said back in June of last year. And it's talked about staying out of here. Get out of there because it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. Because in here, go watch the video. You'll see what I'm saying, because that's a whole different topic. But it's part of getting out of there. It's part of managing and subduing and having dominion over myself. Because this is what I need to control. Because if I can't control this, how can I properly have dominion over anything else? Let's go to I'm going to go to Matthew 6. In fact, Matthew 6, 9 through 13 is commonly known as the Lord's Prayer. You say, why are we going here? Well, as a matter of fact, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to Matthew 6. Let's start at verse 5. It says, and when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Pride, envy, all that stuff goes along with it. He said, truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you even ask him. But this is how you should pray. He's telling us exactly how we ought to pray. Simple, effective, hits the points. If you do this, you're going to be okay. This is how you pray. Let's not confuse it with anything else. He's telling us specifically. This is Jesus telling us how to pray. This is how you should pray. 9. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. In other words, as it already is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread and forgive us our debts, as we also forget our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Simple. Now, mind you guys, if we were to have dominion over our minds and our bodies and follow what he just said here, right here, so many of our problem goes away. Because we're putting things, aligning things, getting things in order. First of all, we're coming to the one and true and only God and giving him the reverence that's due him. We're setting the tone for what's most important. God, seek ye first the kingdom and all will be given. Hear me. We're reverencing his name and we're saying, you are everything. You are everything. When we do that, we declare that we are so far below that. We're literally nothing without him. See, it forces you to put this in perspective. It puts it in check. I'm acknowledging who you are and who I'm not without you. Hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, not my kingdom. Your kingdom come and your will be done. As simple as this is, it's so powerful. And these are the very things that we struggle with. You know, we tend to want to pray and we go all out. And mind you, praying is communicating with God. Hear me. But he tells us exactly. He's given us the most effective way right now. You know, despite what you think and what you want to ask and what you want to talk about, he's telling you this is the way we should pray. This came out of Jesus' mouth. Hear me, guys. We have to control and have dominion over this. How do we do that? We take dominion of who we are and we line ourselves up with the simple thing that God tells us to do. First and foremost, I'm pointing this out because somebody needs to hear this today because we don't know how to pray. And we're still struggling with things because we don't know how to pray. And we're not aware of what the struggles are. We have access to certain things when we align ourselves up with what he said do. And first, you've got to subdue this and have dominion over this and put other things in perspective and to get this thing right. Hear me, guys. We're talking about on this day dominion and having dominion over us before we try to have dominion over anything else. We have to control this. Let's go to real quickly here. I want to go to. Let's go to Romans 12, 1 and 2. Real quick. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. have dominion over your mind. You have to renew your mind so you can get back into the position of dominion over what he's called for you to do. But if you can't renew this mind and have dominion over it, you're going to struggle. Hear me? It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. I got a chance to listen in on a conversation or a sermon not too long ago, and I was listening, and it was a good message. But then the speaker began to talk about how hard ministry is. And I had to say, and I didn't say this out loud, but I'm sitting there and I'm listening, and I'm like, ooh, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I don't think ministry is hard. I don't agree with that. And then someone else came up, more senior individual, and they said the same thing. Yeah, ministry is hard. And they were agreeing with what was being said. And I'm like, oh, I don't agree with that. Now, you're like, what do you mean ministry is not hard? Well, just like I said earlier, that my marriage is not hard to me anymore. And I'm going to say ministry is not hard. What's hard and where the problem lies is when you don't have this under control, when you haven't subdued yourself. See, what I understood the person saying when they said ministry was hard was you're not, or you're taking upon what God is giving you to do in your own strength. I'm here to tell you guys right now, as I walk out this walk with Christ and God right now and what he's called for me to do and speak to you guys, I'm telling you right now, I don't know what I'm doing. The only thing I know to do is what the Father tells me to do. And my goal is to stay right there. I'm going to subdue myself and have dominion on myself and make myself only do what he's leading me to do. And in order to do that, I have to clear the slate and clear my mind and let him speak to my heart and act upon it and nothing else. Because he will not put anything on me more than I can bear. But I surely can. And see, what I find is in my marriage, early in my marriage, I was putting things on me and my wife was putting things on us, and the whole thing that we could bear. That wasn't God. We weren't following what he was telling us to do. We weren't subduing this. We weren't having dominion over this. And then we were trying to have dominion over this marriage that he told us to manage together. Can't do it. Same thing with the ministry or following God or whatever you're trying to do. The battle is within you. See, it's not my job to entertain you as entertain you. I don't have members. Hear me. I'm managing what he's given me. My job is to repeat what he's saying and only what he's saying. Speak through my heart what he's given me. Nothing more, nothing less. That's not hard to do. It's only hard if I'm in rebellion with what he's telling me to do. And I take things up into my own hands. That's when it's hard. See, if I subdue me and only say what thus says the Lord and let him do his work, because it's not my job to fulfill it, it's my job to communicate it. Hear me, guys. My job is to have dominion over me and communicate what he's saying. Do that. Just do that. Just like the Lord prayer said. The Lord said about his prayer. This is how you pray. Just do that. Just do that. And everything else will take care of itself. Do what you're called to do. Subdue and have dominion over this so you can have dominion over that. You can't have proper dominion over that if you don't have dominion over this, because the wheels are going to fall off. And it's going to be hard. Now, I'm not going to say you're not going to have challenges. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. You may have challenges because, and maybe they misspoken what they were saying. I get that. But my goal in my life right now and what he's showing me, do what I say do, and it's definitely going to be a much easier path for you than if you do what you want to do. Allow me to have dominion over you, and then you act on what I tell you to do. It's going to be a much easier path. But see, we want to take these things upon our own shoulders and carry a weight that he didn't give us because we're being disobedient, think know-it-alls, and allowing the pride of life to think we know what we're doing. No, no, sir. I don't want it. I don't want it. So, God, I hope this is helping you. Get dominion over this. And it's going to relieve you of a whole lot of other problems that you're having. But a lot of times, your problem starts within you. Don't seek to try to point out or deal with the plank or the slither or the in your wife's eye or your son's eye or your boss's eye or your pastor's eye or whoever eye you're looking at. Don't try to solve their problems. Look at that plank that's in yours. Deal with your planks that's in your eyes. Subdue you. Subdue you. I hope this is making sense to you today. We'll talk soon.